Thanks everybody for joining. We're very happy and excited to be presenting at MLOps and to show you guys what we're building and working on at Humanfirst. So the format of the event, we're the first ones to present, so we had a little sync with the organizers, but is really a bit up to everybody who's presenting on how they want to use their 90 minutes. And you know, our pitch and demo doesn't take 90 minutes. So what I hope is that we're going to be able to have some interaction and participation, and obviously answer all the questions and address all of the questions that you have. So I can quickly start just by presenting myself. I'm Greg. I'm the CEO at Humanfirst and co-founder. And I'm going to be giving the context of why we built Humanfirst, and then quickly diving into, very technical and deep demo of the capabilities. And while I do that, Alex is going to be helping moderate this event. So there's question and answers, there's chat that's available. And so he's going to help interrupt me to answer questions, and he's going to take some as well. And hopefully we also are able to get a sense and to ask you guys some questions via some of the polls that we can create. And Matt, who's my co-founder and CTO, is going to be able to jump in, obviously, and answer more technical questions that you guys might have. All right. So with that, I think that we will start with the slides. So, oh, sorry, I think I just, can you see my screen correctly? Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, Humanfirst is essentially like Excel for natural language data. And by that, we mean that we're building a complete productivity suite to work with and to transform natural language data. And this is something that we're extremely passionate about, because from the beginning, we saw natural language as one of the types of data that is being generated and produced in increasing large amounts of volume, and that has very, very high application in businesses. So I'll start just by giving a bit of a introduction to the team. So as I mentioned, myself, Mathieu René and Alex Dubois are here on this call today. And the rest of the team is based out of Montreal. And we all have been working either together in previous projects or have been very involved in the startup community in Montreal for many years. And we got together with Humanfirst to build this product 3 years ago. Our prior experience, so Mathieu and myself were leading the engineering and tech at a startup in a completely different space, in the security space. We're building a password manager that's very competitive to 1Password and Dashlane. And we got acquired by Intel. And after a certain period with Intel, we decided to get together again to build Humanfirst. And we brought on some really crucial talent to do that. Our thesis, and that hasn't changed, was that there's increasingly large amounts of natural language data being generated by companies. Taking advantage and leveraging that data would be very important. So the types of natural language data that we see businesses needing to take account in their business operations are obviously live chat and messaging. So it's and this was the initial market that we went after when we first started Humanfirst. It was seeing just how many companies were interacting in personalized one-on-one conversations via these types of channels, and how this was a wave that was growing. Of course, the call centers that have been around for many, many years are another direct source of natural language data that is telling companies what their customers, giving them a lot of insights on their customers. And what's really interesting about call center data is that very recently, in the last 2 years, the technology behind speech to text and automatic speech recognition has drastically evolved thanks to a lot of deep learning models. And so this is creating a very, very easy access to high volume of quality data that can now be interpreted because it's coming from voice calls. We also see the help centers that are omnipresent channel for self-serve, for customer self-service, that all websites deploy on platforms like Zendesk, and the website search. Those are experiences where users are increasingly expecting to get results, and sometimes even speaking to those interfaces in a conversational manner, and certainly in a natural language manner. So that's a lot of data that can also be interpreted. Then, of course, customer feedback, product reviews, NPS verbiage. There's a massive investment by companies across all areas in really taking into account what customers are and getting this feedback to improve and to direct product priorities and to take business decisions. And the big hype when we started, and kind of still is, chatbots and virtual assistants. So they all generate data as well. Some of it is automated on the chatbot side, but from the user's perspective, as long as it's not hard-coded decisions, the natural language that users input into these conversations informs a lot on what they want to do through those interfaces, and also how well the AI and the chatbots are performing. Then we also saw that a lot of companies were turning towards very personalized one-on-one conversations through their sales and marketing campaigns. So we saw a huge growth coming in channels like SMS, for example, and in-app notifications that are turning from being simple push and very low value marketing to highly personalized conversations that are being proactively initiated by companies. And of course, in those conversations and data as well, there's a lot of value. And then email and support tickets are something that companies have been generating for years. The ability to turn those conversations into actions is, of course, something that a lot of companies want to do. And finally, the internal business communication that teams are having on channels like Slack is growing and constitutes a lot of ways for the companies to start improving their internal operations and processes. So to recap, when we started Humanfirst, it's because we believe that this type of data was going to continue growing at an exponential pace, and that there needed to be a very simple solution for anyone to go and to take advantage of this data. Because thinking simply about the business value that all this data contained, and if you can centralize and work on that data, obviously it unlocks a myriad of use cases. And I'll explain some of these use cases, and these are all use cases that our current customers are applying, have a need for when they talk about natural language data. So the analytics part that can done on natural language is obviously the first and one of the most important parts of the equation of any project, is understanding what is being said, being able to track, measure, and report it. Provides the types of dashboards and the types of key KPIs that teams can use to inform their product decisions. But also the data, building on the data to build features that will help the product is a clear application of the data. So on the call center side, automating and improving the way that a call center will handle calls requires triage and routing. And that requires understanding on a very granular scale what is being said. On the live chat, messaging, and other omni-channel side, this is all powered by human agents today. And there's a very clear need to improve the efficiency of agents by augmenting them. So that can be by giving them the answer that they should provide. It can be by displaying a playbook that should inform them of what the next question they should ask to drive sales. there's a whole opportunity to improve the efficiency of communications by human agents. Then on the RPA side, so the robotic process automation, a lot of the things that are signals happening in the conversations can be applied to things like a CRM or to a business process. So a simple example is if you have a customer who reports in a live chat that he never received his card, that can effectively be very easily linked to a business process, which would wake up the operations team, give them the information of that customer, and immediately set a flag saying the card needs to be reshipped. It's similar in the sense to what chatbots and virtual agents so chatbots and virtual agents are built and trained on the data that customers are providing. And so this is an obvious application of this data. For the sales and marketing campaigns, the personalization and the automation that I spoke of before can only really happen at scale if you're able to increasingly understand what customers are replying, what their questions and where you can bring the conversation to eventually help the agent accelerate his responses and ultimately automate the entire conversation. Then we also see a lot of features and products that are powered by natural language understanding. And so, whether it be the Zendesk live chat experience itself or other communication channels, for them to improve your experience as an end user requires adding features like smart autocompletes or building in features that will help you do your work more efficiently. And that is all trained on this natural language data. And finally, the search FAQs and Q&As that teams are building and the self-serve content that they're providing to customers is something that comes from the questions that customers ask. And so better understanding and building that knowledge base by starting from the actual data allows teams to identify gaps in the content and to make sure that they are really answering every single type of request that their customers may have. So these are all the applications, or at least some of the applications that we saw as becoming quite obvious and something that most teams would start looking at, and that again depend on the ability to transform natural language data into AI training data or into natural language understanding training data. So this is not magic, and this is an MLOps conference, so we obviously expect that most people have a sense of how important the data is in terms of the component of building this type of AI. And I don't know, and maybe Alex will create a short poll to see who in the audience is working with natural language data and building natural language understanding powered applications today. But much like all AI models, it's a key part of the ingredient list is great data. And building great data sets for all of the use cases that I showed before is not magic. It starts by identifying what you want the natural language understanding to be able to recognize within the utterances and the data. Then it requires curating a data set from that data. So finding the training examples that represent what customers are asking. Then applying that data to train an AI model. And there's a lot of off-the-shelf and very good NLU models provided by platforms like Dialogflow, IBM Watson, Rasa. They all take data in and they train very quickly, and then they provide APIs to build the types of functionality powered by that NLU. And finally, and this is important, is the continuous optimization of this training data is a key component. So once you've deployed this data and deployed an application to production, you need to be able to continuously review the data that's being produced and add to it and measure the accuracy of the model and improve it. So it's all things that seem pretty simple to do, and that in certain verticals and other industries, there's already a lot of platforms to do that. But in NLU, this data engineering part of the component and of the ecosystem is actually missing. And there's reasons we believe why in certain industries like image and video labeling have picked up, and this data engineering has been built much faster, whereas for natural language it's taken more time. The first is that identifying the labels, identifying what needs to be understood in the first place is very difficult, because natural language data tends to have more context and a longer tail of things that are expressed within the data. So the discovery and the identification of that in the first place is difficult. And then it's a tedious process of finding the training examples for a given label that you want to recognize, and labeling all of the conversation data. And it's also tedious because it's not something that is as easily offloadable to a remote team of workers. And the example I like to give is that it's easy to describe a labeling task to a low-skilled worker and say, put a bounding box around the car that you see in the picture. But when it comes to language, it's much more domain specific in a lot of cases, and there's more nuance. And so it's hard to actually hand off and to ensure that the quality is good and that the labeling is done correctly. And finally, it's almost impossible today, therefore, to curate and to improve and optimize the training data at a large scale. And we think that the importance now is in helping natural language understanding go from what it supports today, which in a lot of cases is a limited set of intents and things that it can understand, to a long tail and a much deeper set of training data that it will power. And this is really the next wave, or the next versions of NLU will be able to capture much deeper and much longer tail of user questions, and therefore provide a really great experience. What I want to show you here is something that we've learned and we're surprised, is that today the tool that teams turn to do this data engineering is Excel. And as you can see on the screen, this is really what most teams trying to attack this long tail and this labeling and scaling part of NLU end up doing. Importing raw utterances from all of the channels I listed before into something like Excel, and in some cases even less user-friendly files or JSON files, and then doing the labeling in this type of platform and environment, and or building their own pipelines and tools and admins in order to do this labeling and this organization work. And of course, this is something that is very costly, time-consuming, money-consuming. So the build option is not something that we see sustainable for most companies, especially when it comes to the maintenance cost and the ability to continuously kind of stay up to speed with the best ways of doing this data engineering. So we are the solution for this data engineering problem for natural language understanding, because we attack the core problems that we listed before, which is first making it very easy to explore and to discover the things in your natural language that you want to understand. So we believe that the exploration and that being able to move around your data is a critical part of the equation. That leads to really understanding and building the right knowledge representation. Then we make the labeling process, we accelerate the labeling process by helping the users do things much more efficiently thanks to machine learning powered workflows. So finding the training examples, finding all the different variations that are going to improve the quality of the AI, and surfacing those to the users is important. And of course, something that tools like Excel are not prepared or do not provide for. And finally, the streamlining of all these activities is important because in projects that companies are doing across natural language data, the collaboration between the different stakeholders is important. And where today it is more siloed and you have people from different teams responsible for different parts of the analysis or building, streamlining this allows teams to more efficiently curate and to take the data to bring it to business value. And so we see that some of the activities are really limited to teams, technical teams and technical expertise like data scientists and machine learning engineers. A tool like Excel, but made for natural language data, made for working with natural language data, opens the opportunities and the ability for a lot of different players to start producing insights. So product owners and customer support managers are clear stakeholders that have an interest in being able to look at what customers are saying and to dive into it and to prepare their insights and for that to drive their business priorities. Data scientists and machine learning engineers will always have a need to take their data, whether it's been labeled, whether it's the output of some model that they've trained. There will always be noise. And so the cleaning and the preparation of that data to improve machine learning models is important. And this is something that a tool like ours should provide. And finally, there's a very clear there's a very clear type of work that is being developed now around conversation design and linguists who are responsible for making sure that they're capturing the right things that people are and mapping it to the right business priorities and in the right way. And for them as well, exploring data and being able to work on that data in collaboration with the other parts of the team is extremely important. So with that, I'll dive in now to show how Humanfirst solves these problems and helps teams leverage and work with their natural language data. I was focused on my slides, so I wasn't sure what was happening, or I didn't see what was happening in the chats. I'll just look. Are there any questions, Alex, or can I continue going forward?
Yeah, you can continue, Greg. I think people are still a little bit shy, but hopefully once the demo starts, we'll get questions coming in.
Cool. I would personally love, I will definitely dive in, but I would love to, if you're working with natural language data today, or if there's some of these use cases that you either see as useful or that you believe you might be working on, please don't be shy. Raise your hand and just say, yeah, we're doing this, or this is why I'm interested, particularly in this topic. I really want to make this interactive, and hopefully you interrupt us with your questions and throughout the demo now, because as I said at the beginning, this demo will not take an hour, but it can lead to very interesting discussions as we go along.
Yeah, so guys, feel free to use the chat functionality. Make sure you're on the session tab and not on the event tab. That way you can just enter a question there, and we'll make sure to answer it during the demo.
Okay, I'm going to share now my tab that has there. Can you see the workspace, Alex?
Yeah, it looks good.
All right, great. So welcome to Humanfirst. What you see here is a list of workspaces. So first things first, workspaces are where teams collaborate around unlabeled data and transform that data into insights and into AI training data. So in Humanfirst, you can create as many workspaces as you want. And the same way in Excel, you'll use Excel as much to simply explore as a scratch pad, as a little place to upload temporary data, as much as you'll use it for, to build complete production models or reports. We see the same use and the same use cases for Humanfirst. So you can create a workspace and upload data on the fly, and you can clone workspaces and invite people to collaborate on them. And also within Humanfirst, it's unlimited seats. So, we see teams, and this is true for our customers today, that start with a given need for working with natural language data, for example, to improve the performance of their chatbot, and then realize that our marketing team is getting, for example, product reviews or NPS reviews, and we could use this to analyze that data as well. So we say, bring on everybody you want into Humanfirst and share the data and work on it together. So what you see here is a list of demo workspaces. And I'll just quickly also note that all these demo workspaces are in this namespace, which is Humanfirst demo. But there's a lot of, basically you can create as many namespaces as you want. And this is a concept of basically multi-tenant. So some of our customers are companies building enterprise chatbots for enterprise customers. So they'll have a namespace per customer. And this allows to segregate both the team members, so they can invite, let's say, the team of their customer to come and look at the work that's being done, and also allows to segregate the data and to build very clean separations. So a core part of what is driving and what powers Humanfirst is the data pipeline. So you can think of Humanfirst as an ETL. So you extract information from somewhere else, you transform it into data and business value, and then you can send that data off to other production environments and to power different services. So for us, the data ingestion and is a very key component. So you see here that in this namespace, we've uploaded a lot of different types of demo data. And so, for example, in the banking data set, we have 2 different CSVs. Then we have some L'Oreal product reviews from Amazon. And you can see that in this case, there's 1 CSV, whereas here in Mascara, we've uploaded 3 different product review CSVs. And so you can manage your data sets really easily in this way and add to an existing data set in real time or in batch. So our API and command line tool also allows you to create a data set like this and push data into it automatically. So for example, if you are, again, to take the previous example, building a virtual assistant and you want to improve it every week by the last data that came in, you can push data into a data set and keep a snapshot of the new data that's been added over time. So I'll show you what the experience of creating a new workspace looks like. And I'll do that by creating a new workspace, obviously. So you can create a workspace either by importing an existing project from platforms like Rasa, Dialogflow, BotPress, Watson, or you can import a custom CSV. So this is useful if you already have labeled data, so intents, that you want to bring in and that you want to work on, which is what a lot of companies have. So again, this can be noisy labeled data, let's say that you've received back from a labeling provider, and you want to analyze that to do QA on it. So you'll import that via custom CSV. Or you can create a blank workspace, in which case there's no intents and there's no data inside there. And that's what I'll do here. Workspace called MLOps. So this is a blank workspace. And it's very simple. There's two views, really. There's the data view, which is your unlabeled data view, and there's your intents, which we preload with 3 pre-trained intents, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But effectively, the simple way of viewing Humanfirst, again, is that you bring in unlabeled data, and you use that data to create and to curate a list of intents with their accompanying training data. So I'll go back to the raw data and import some data. So when you want to add data, you can upload your own, and this can be a flat list of utterances. So for example, it could be your NPS verbatims, it could be email support, it could be your product reviews, basically single section of text. Or you can also upload multi-turn conversation data. So this can be where you have an agent and a customer, and where it's important for you to maintain the context. You can also use, so we're providing public data sets that you can use to explore. And one of the interesting things as well is that you can go and find other public data sets that contain interesting things to train and to build your own AI with. But if you want some examples, you can start with these. And finally, you can reuse any one of the existing data sets that you've already created within your namespace. So I showed you before the data management view, and this is what you have here, where you see the data that is already inside your workspaces. So I'm going to start by uploading, or rather linking, this data set of bank data. So this is a data set that was produced, I believe, by Raza. And it's demo, although I think it might have been from real data, in the context of a bank IVR. So people asking questions. Sorry, my screen is freezing a bit. I'm just going to take my video off. Okay, sorry about that. So I've loaded here these utterances, which are, as you can see, all types of questions that somebody could ask a bank IVR. So in a case of let's say a phone system where you say what your problem is. So the Humanfirst allows you to explore this data and transform it and label it. So I'll give you an example of kind of the basic functionality that you might want to start using Humanfirst for. So let's say you're a product owner, or you're the customer support manager for this banking app, and you've heard a few reports that people have been saying that they're locked out of their account, and you suspect that this might be a bug that was introduced, and you want to figure out if that really is the case. So, your customer data, your voice of the customer data, is a clear place where you can start this exploration. You could go into Mixpanel and start looking at the logs of the signups. But from our experience with PasswordBox, when we started going and seeing what people were telling us, it gave us a much more real-time view of where the actual problems were. So in this case, you could think that you would load, let's say, your help center search queries like this one, or your IVR, and start looking for occurrences of this type of problem. Start your search with a full text search. So when you load data, we index it, and we can do this at a very big scale. And this indexing then powers these types of search and exploration. So I could say, show me all the conversations or utterances where mentioning accounts. So this is a basic full text search, which will show you all of the types of utterances related to accounts. And so if I'm that product owner, or customer support manager, I could look for the requests that seem to indicate this problem. For example, help, my account is blocked. So I can start my search by selecting this. And you see here that we allow you to then look for semantically similar utterances within your unlabeled data. So within all the data that you have. And so by clicking that, we immediately pull up all of the semantically similar, again, results. And now you start seeing that there are actually quite a lot of people asking for this thing. You'll note that this is not keyword based. So this is really based on semantic similarity. And this works regardless of the type of data, of the domain. So you can load really any natural language data, and the semantic similarity, which is powered by the data pipeline, will allow you to start showing these types of results. So here, as that product owner, customer support manager, I have now some examples of these requests. I can also ask or find clusters that represent things that are similar to these training phrases that I've selected by clicking Get Clusters. And what that will do is it will group together things that are similar and similar to this. So for example, for what reason is my account blocked? So there's 3 similar phrases to that one in this cluster, which I'll select. And we add all of these phrases. Why is my bank account blocking me? Also that. And then you see here, there's some things that are related to that, but that are not what I want. So I won't select any of these clusters. Now I have these results, and I can save this search result to an intent. And you can think of that as really just, I want to keep this data because it's useful and it informs me of people reporting this locked out of account scenario. And that's it. Now we've created an intent, and if I go to my list of intents of trained label data, you see that I've created this top level intent, which is locked out of account, which has this training data. Now, it's really cool. The creating intents like this is that, of course, it already provides this source of data that you can show your team, and that you can say, like, here are the different things and ways that people have reported this problem. But it also serves as a powerful search filter for the rest of your data as well. So once I've created an intent with some training data, behind the scenes, we build a classifier that allows you to then go back to your unlabeled data and show utterances similar to that intent. And now you see, with the similarity score within the unlabeled data, you can see that you can explore and continue seeing a lot more occurrences of this type of request. And you can change the similarity intent, so you can go and find other types of things that you want to match from any intent that you've created in any workspace. So
hey,
this is
yeah. Just want to stop you there. I think we have someone that wants to raise his hand to ask a question. Just want to make sure it's just someone that hit the button by accident. Vikrant, I'll just invite you if ever you don't want to ask a question. Just let us know. But I'll add you to the call right now. Hi, Vikrant.
Hi. No, I don't have any question at this point of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, the moderation panel, your name just popped up, so I thought you raised your hand. But
okay. Sorry about that.
All right.
But I'm listening to, and I'll ask. Yeah.
Excellent. I'll put you back in the attendees.
Sure. Please do that. Yeah.
All right, we're good to go, Greg.
cool. So so as I was saying, if you create an intent from some data, you can obviously use that intent to further to search through that your unlabeled data. You can also use any intent that you've created in any workspace and train on any data to do that exploration as well. And so this is what I'll show here. When I created this blank workspace, you saw that we preloaded it with these 3 pre-trained intents, which are things that we tend to consistently see in most voice of the customer data. So at a very high level, you have people who are expressing problems and questions. And so we've pre-trained these intents, and then you can use them to start your exploration and say, for example, show me all of the problems that appear in my unlabeled data. And so you see here, show utterances similar to has a problem. And now here are the different types of problems. my card didn't work. I see a purchase, fraudulent charges, my card declined. I don't have checks left. So, and again, this works regardless of the data that you upload to Humanfirst. The pre-trained intents or the intents that you train yourself will still find kind of the similar things within a completely new training data set. So I can show this. Actually, this is an interesting use case. So I'll import, and I'll show you how you can import those intents from another workspace. So I have another workspace where we've already created intents around banking data like this one. And so you see, for example, that I can say, okay, I in this workspace as well, I expect that there's going to be questions around the credit account and specifically around the credit cards. And let's say I'm interested in exploring whether in this new data set, there's questions around damaged, declined, or fraudulent activity on my card. So I can import these intents directly from this other workspace into this project and use this again to accelerate the search. So for example, if I'm, again, that same product owner, and now I'm looking for, let's say, card issues, here's the data that I've imported, and I can use this now to look at my unlabeled data and look for card issues. So which brings up this. And I can change the similarity event to say, for example, a declined card, and it will find the unlabeled data that corresponds to that. So this is one of the powerful features that we believe unlocks the reusability of data that's really important in a lot of cases. Because the reality is that your customers, whether they're saying things in your call center, your live chats, your help center, they're all saying similar things. Sometimes the format of the text will be different. But if you're looking to build a long roadmap of AI that's powered by NLU, being able to combine these different data sources and to create these intents that are reusable across the use cases opens up a lot of opportunities for the insights and for the AI products. So I'll go back to my intent view, and so you saw here that we'd organized the intents in that other workspace hierarchically, and so you see that under credit account we have more specifically a card intent, and under card we have card issue intents, and under that we have even more specific things like fraud, etc. And this is one of the ways that we really believe we can solve the scalability aspect of NLU, is by allowing teams to model their information and to build this type of knowledge in ways that make sense for their domain, and that give them the flexibility they need in terms of what they want to build with it afterwards. So for example, you can create, you can move things as you wish. So let's say locked out of account. If I've created this because I saw that it was something that happens in my data, here it's easy because I only have 5 intents. But you can imagine that when I start getting to 100 intents, it's going to be very hard to find this one within all the intents. Whereas if I move it now to has a problem, I now can look for, and it's easy for a team to start collaborating and finding where specific things could be. For example, has a problem. And now you can imagine that, locked out of account might be the first problem you found, but you might find over time that you actually have a more general problem with accounts. For example, can't create account, etc. So you might create a top level intent that will match all account questions and pull in and create children of that that will be more specific versions of that intent. And this is very important because by creating this type of taxonomy and structure, which I'll show again here, you're effectively training and improving the intents at the different levels of abstraction. So has a problem will now match all of the children intents data. And therefore, you can quickly build very, very powerful high-level intents that will work kind of across any domain, much like we have for has a problem, has a question, and then build more specific problems that can match at these different levels of similarity. From a scaling perspective, this is really where teams can start collaborating, and where you can make sure that bringing in somebody who doesn't necessarily know the data won't prevent him from still participating. So I'll show a more full version of this intent tree on that data that we've created here. I'll go to the intents, and you see here that these are the different high-level intents that we've found, and from which we've created similar or intents, more specific ones. So the credit account that I was referring to, you see here that really there's a lot of different intents. And we could probably keep reorganizing these as we discover more things and as we want them to improve. If I go to my card intent, and specifically to the card issue intent, you see here that I have, in this intent, I've put some there's still some unlabeled utterances, I'll say, that are more specific than card issue, and that could go into these more specific intents. And that's something that you can really easily do with Humanfirst. And it's one of the core aspects of this refactoring of intents that is critical to the scaling of your model. So for example, if I'm in card issue, I could select a training phrase like my card broke in half, and find the similar training phrases within this intent by sorting by similarity. So you'll see that here we'll bring up, I want to report a broken card because it's close. And we allow you to then reassign this data to either an existing intent, and we'll help by providing high level, some of the intents that seem to be matching that, or you can assign it manually yourself to another intent. In this case, this is a damaged card, so I will want to move these phrases to my damaged card intent, and we allow you to do that in one action like this. So this split feature is something that is important because it allows you to start looking at your data from a high level, say all kinds of questions around a certain topic into an initial intent that you create, and then to go into that intent and to break it up as needed over time. And a good example of this is, let's say you're handling email tickets. So your first task or the first feature that your team might want to build is a simple triage NLU that will figure out who to send specific high-level topic emails to. So you might build an NLU that is able to recognize card issues regardless of what the issue is. And because you'll have put all of these types of training phrases like lost, stolen, damaged, decline, etc., into card issue. And you're happy at that point because you have an NLU that will recognize that with a high level of accuracy. But over time, you might decide, you know what, the business process or what we want to do with people who report, lost, stolen versus decline is very different. And so this is where being able to quickly split an intent's data into more specific things and track it allows you to extend and to build on the data that you've already created. So this is actually an activity that is also typically something that most teams have to do, this identification of where intense training data needs to go and finding out where there's problems with the data itself. And we aim to really simplify that process by providing insights into the data that helps you make those decisions. So this, what you see here is a report over all of the intents that are created and trained. And you see that you can rank this and order it by different quality metrics. And these quality metrics, so the F1 precision, recall, accuracy, are things that are computed when you run an evaluation. And the evaluation does a k-fold split. So it basically trains 5 versions of a model built with your data, but where in every run, it takes 20% of the data and it doesn't include it in the training data. So, and then it'll look at whether the expected result of the NLU was the right one or not. And so this allows you to train, if you have data and you don't have a separate training data set, you can still run this type of evaluation, which gives you insights into where problematic data might be. So one of the metrics that a lot of data scientists and machine learning engineers use is the F1 score. And you've probably seen this type of result in confusion matrices. What we aim to do is to make that type of reporting and analysis actionable. So if you see, for example, here, I'll come back to my example of damaged card. It's an 87% F1, so we think there might be some confusing sentences in there. So if you click on it and you go to the intent, you can ask to sort or to find the confusion. And what this shows is that this intent is actually confused with these 2 other intents. So this is our intent here, and we're confusing it possibly with lost, stolen card, and fraud. And you can change the confusion score so that you remove if it's too noisy, or if you want to see things that are, not that confused, but you still want to see them ranked. You can change the confusion threshold. And so things that have a very low score are things that are really not confused that much, and things that are high score are very confused or more confused. So I can remove kind of the noise to really say, okay, above 28%, really it's lost, stolen card where I have confusion. And I can click on that and see that these are the ranked training phrases within the other intent that might be confused. So these are the phrases, and I can resolve the ambiguity by moving things from one intent to another. And this re-ranks the list of training phrases based on similarity between each other. Now, it's important to note that these results are not perfect, in the sense that a k-fold split is more of an indication of where problems might be. And of course, if your NLU that you're running is on Dialogflow or Watson or Rasa, the production NLU will have different results. These results are running off our NLU. It will give results based on ours. However, we now integrate with Rasa, so you can run your reports off your own production NLU pipeline. And we're working on integrations within Dialogflow and other NLU providers as well. So this is a very simple way for you to, again, move phrases from one intent to another and immediately apply the changes to then resolve the ambiguities. So Alex, are there any questions, or I'm talking a lot, but I'd love some feedback. Love any questions you have.
Well, so far I think everyone's remaining pretty quiet. We do have a lot of people that answered the poll working on natural language data. Guys, if you have any specific questions for Greg or myself, feel free to, if you want to ask it using your voice, just feel free to try to join this call, or you can just type your question in the chat. Maybe Greg, I can ask you a question in terms of integration points between Humanfirst and other pipelines. Can we elaborate on a little bit on our command line tool and how we help teams kind of integrate directly with their CI/CD pipelines?
Yep, it's a question we often get, so we'll answer it preemptively. So yeah, you can really think of Humanfirst as a data layer that sits a bit on top of your existing pipeline or development workflow. And our customers today work on their data and improve and build this type of training data set. And when they're done, they export it back into their projects. So we provide a few different formats and integrations to export the data back into. For example, Raza, BotPress, and then this CSV, which is also the format for Dialogflow. And so what you get is really a very simple, ultimately output of data that you can load straight into your project. Now, you see here, this is a prompt to ask what to do with the hierarchies. And so actually none of the NLU platforms out there support hierarchies. And that's a shame, because hierarchies are really much, much more practical than dealing with long lists of intents with these kind of delimiters that represent the hierarchy. So you can map your hierarchy and still export the data out and specify what delimiter to use so that it keeps mapping with your own project. And this also works when you import data in. So if you've adopted kind of a very clean or clear structure on saying, we'll say the top level thing _ intent _, you can simply provide the delimiter, and then we'll recreate the hierarchy straight away in Humanfirst. So exporting via the command line is the kind of basic out of the box experience that you can do. And our customers typically will not push, if they're building this or if they're using Humanfirst to build production or improve production chatbots, for example, typically they'll take the output and run it either through a diff or a continuous integration pipeline, that allows our team to review the data and then to merge it in. And this is all something that is really easily done thanks to our command line tool. So we have a command line tool that I invite you to check out. So all of our documentation is up to date. And as you see here, we have a command line tool that allows you to integrate and to push the data into different platforms, for example, dialog flows, as well as to manage most of the things that you're doing within Conversation Studio. Oh, sorry, I was showing another tab, but I was showing the documentation, which you can access from our website.
I guess a good segue to that, Greg, you just mentioned everything related to diff reports. As I guess a lead on a project where you have a lot of people collaborating on the same workspace, is there a way for Humanfirst to help track those changes through time and kind of get an audit trail of what's been happening with the data?
Yes, there is, Alex. Thanks for asking. Yeah, so true. I mean, most projects around data engineering and data curation do require having really good transparency into the changes and the diffs that were done. So we've, of course, taken that into account and have built and are continuing to build on a complete log of all the actions and activity within Humanfirst. And so this allows you to, so first of all, we create snapshots of your workspace automatically based on a few different actions. So there's a certain number of actions after which we will create a snapshot. And we also create snapshots when you train a model and when you run an evaluation. And so what this shows here is a list of the snapshots that are done. And you can use this either as a restore point. So you can restore a previous snapshot to a new workspace. So it clones it and allows you to work off of it. And you can also show a diff of all of the actions done within this particular time. This was an evaluation run 2 hours ago, whereas I could say, show me all of the changes between 10 days ago and today. And this will show you really all of the actions. And and we track things up to the individual user that has done the action, and are exposing this now so that you can filter through these settings to really dig down. So this is still something that we're actively working on based on some of the feedback. But as you can see, it really allows you to see who did what. And in certain cases, especially when you're, let's say, dealing with data that came from, let's say, an outside labeling team, I mean, using Humanfirst as a way to vet what work was done and to improve the quality, it helps to know, of course, this type of, or to have this level of detail. And this information is can be exported and accessed via the command line as well.
Thanks, Greg. That answers my question.
So while I'm on this, I just want to show, because I mentioned training the model, and if our customers today, for the most part, use other NLU providers for the actual NLU API. So the main ones that are very popular are obviously Dialogflow and Watson, as well as Rasa. And as I said, this is a kind of a data layer, and so we expect and believe that it's important to continue working with those NLU providers. That said, we also do train and use our underlying NLU to power the features that I showed, and you can retrain that model anytime, which will take all the changes in the training data and then provide an NLU that matches the similarity. So once I click that, now the model's trained. It's processing, which is effectively indexing now the entire unlabeled data set against this model. So what that means is that, first of all, I can say, for example, I broke my card and need a new one. We need to train it a bit better. There's not a lot of data, but you see the damaged card and lost stolen card, and those we saw there was ambiguity. So we probably have to resolve.
Greg, what would be interesting is, based on those results, if you can go back to intents and go to lost stolen card, and let's just see if we're able to find some conflicts between lost stolen card and damaged card. Starting from lost.
Yeah.
Start from.
Sorry, it's still loading. It's taking a bit of time because of the processing. So I'll get to that, but just before I come back, what I wanted to explain around the NLU is that, so as you see, we're training an NLU model that will find within the data, the similarity with the existing intents. And this is powerful because what it's doing here, and that's why it's taking a bit of time, is it's actually for every single utterance or conversation in your data set, it will assign a score for every intent that you have in your data. So, and of course, a lot of those scores will be very, very low because they won't be good. But what our API then provides and allows you to do is to do searches through your unlabeled data based on intent predicates. And so you can load, let's say, in your intents. So you could easily create a dashboard by calling the API and saying, "Show me all conversations where card was found, intent was found, and also let me speak to your manager intent was found." We can combine the intents and find and create basically very, very powerful search and analytics that is trained on your NLU model. And that's one of the areas in terms of analytics and NLU that we're really pushing and innovating on. That this is where long tail NLU really starts becoming powerful. So I'll go back, Alex, now that it's done processing. So lost stolen card, we were saying that it was identified as this. So if I sort by confusion, we see that damaged card is indeed the problem. And if I click on it, you see that lost stolen card. My card is damaged and unusable. That should definitely be in damaged. And the NLU proposed lost stolen card instead of this one. It's probably because some of these phrases, and here we only show you the top confused training phrases. So this one definitely should be there. This one should be there. I cracked a card and the chip on my car is damaged. So now I've resolved that confusion. And in fact, we can do this test since we have time. And this is a real live test, so I have no idea if it's going to work. But I'm going to retrain the model quickly and see now if that fixes the problem.
I might be mistaken, Greg, but I think there was a few with maybe a lower bound confusion that still needed to be put in damage. Left and lost on card. Oh, there you go.
Now you see that I've fixed that, and now the damaged card RNLU gives it an 87% versus a 7%. So this was clearly the problem of those training phrases that were being confused between the two intents, and that we're able to solve this way.
So this is really interesting in terms of continuous improvement once a project is up and running to make sure you're maintaining the a sane model with no conflicting, intense and ambiguous training phrases. Within the data view, would you be able to show a little bit in terms of the workflows we have available to discover new types of intents that might be happening in new incoming conversations and data?
Sure. Alex, you're doing a great job, by the way. So I showed the unlabeled data view here, which really provides kind of all the data that has not been categorized yet. So of course you can filter this data. Let's say you have your model is out and it's powering, I don't know, your sales or this type of data. So you could say, show me, the conversations that were done in the last week, because we expect to have this. I want to find, let's say, new questions because it's Christmas. So I want to find all the Christmas related questions for that time frame. But you can also sort the data here by other metrics that are output of the training itself. And so specifically, you can sort the unlabeled data by margin score, uncertainty, and entropy. And what this does effectively, if I sort by NLU uncertainty, for example, is that it takes the train model that we built, that, as you saw, is still indexing all the unlabeled data, and it will show you now the phrases that are the least likely to be matching an existing intent. So this allows you to find phrases that have a lower score of certainty with existing intents. And so it really bubbles up things that you might not have found in your data. Or it will find training phrases that are good examples of the edge case or variations that are going to improve your model. So for example, tell me straight if it has been processed or not. All right, well, you see here we say it's application, the credit account, and I believe that this is probably something similar to that. Yeah, so you see that we're giving you the option here to, before you confirm that, to say that it is the same type of question. And we're also helping you identify that this is something that will probably improve the model because it had a pretty low similarity score to start with. So you can start this type of sorting. If I go back to my NLU uncertainty. So I think we mentioned and we showed the clustering, but so you can apply cluster to at any time and based on any search predicate. So I can cluster now also the uncertain data, and it's going to find within that things that are probably worth looking at as well. What's interesting is here, for example, how do I locate my credit score? If I select this cluster, you see, so we actually do have a credit score. And I think it's because a lot of the data has already been we probably won't find a lot of new things. But you see that if I wanted to label this new data, I could quickly assign it to the existing intent. But what's also interesting is that I can continue and really find all of now the similar things to this cluster, which acts as a search predicate by simply saying show similar to suggestion. And now we'll find all of the remaining unlabeled data. And so I could take that and in one fell swoop, add it to improve my intent.
So we actually have a question, Greg, from Daniel in the chat. Is there a way for a manager to oversee the quality of the work that has been done by others? Maybe a dashboard with a couple of metrics to make sure it's been getting better over time?
That's a good question. We don't have that type of dashboard in product today. The snapshot, so the results that you can look at that will inform you of the performance of the model is this type of snapshot that's trained on. So, and we do keep kind of these results. And right now we don't expose that, but that's an interesting idea. And we'll take a note of that, is that we could easily allow you to probably view that within this type of snapshot, because this represents basically the state of the data and of the model at that time. So this could be a way that you could say, show me, for example, between 11 days and like last week, or like in these 2 days, what was the change in terms of the model? And then you'd also see all of the active actions that led to that.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, I guess a good segue to that is something on our roadmap. We do know that 5-fold cross-validation tests do have their limitations, which is why we're looking at a more controlled regression testing functionalities to help see that change over time and that improvement over time. I don't know, Matt, if that's something you'd like to expand on, but I guess that's just what I wanted to add.
There's a lot of some companies have the luxury of having a validation set that they don't work on. So in these cases where the data is well sampled and exists in some place that isn't affected by training, and the objective is to make that the reference and to be able to track the model's evolution based on the validation set. K-fold validation is a good approximation of that, when you can't afford to lose a certain percentage of your data to have a validation set and still use it for training. So that's what we have.
A bit muffled, but I got that, so hopefully everybody else did as well. This reminds me. Sorry, it's just looking at the screen. I didn't mention, but so we mentioned that you can work with both kind of flat level utterances, but also multi-turn dialogues. And so actually I'll load another data set. So here you see the data sets that are linked. This tells you that there's 939 out of the total across all of these 50,000 utterances that have been labeled. But I'm going to add just another data set, from our public data sets, which is STAR. And this is more conversation data. And I'm going to disable this one to focus just on, right. So you see here, these are multi-turn conversations that were, again, provided by, I think this is Raza. They basically had humans play against or talk with a bot and generate these conversations around different topics. And so you can explore your data and label it starting from this type of context. So you can select an utterance, and you can either assign it, or you can select multiple utterances in the case where, let's say, 2 consecutive utterances constitute the intent, and you see we concatenate them here, and that allows you to assign that to an intent. You can also add the similar utterances in your unlabeled view straight from here, in which case we'll select you, and then you see we'll show you the similar utterances again.
I don't know if anyone in the attendees have any questions for us I guess we have gone through almost everything in the platform.
I wanted to show something, since if nobody has questions, this is something cool that I wanted to write a blog post on, so I can show the, I mean, we really believe that beyond chatbots and VAs, there's really this opportunity to build understanding of all types of natural language data. So this is an interesting case. We loaded, I have a little Chrome extension that pulls all of the product reviews for any Amazon product. So we pulled a bunch of L'Oreal product reviews for different products. And last night, so in 1 hour, I labeled, I think I looked at how many I labeled. So on this side, I labeled 300. And then on the other project, I labeled another 300 about. And I created these high-level negative positive, but more importantly, very much more specific intents that represent these kind of sentiments. Because we believe that sentiment analysis limited to positive, negative, neutral is very hard to be actionable. Whereas knowing that which reports on a packaging, let's say, malfunction, provides a lot of value. So I created these intents that I train on one set of data, which is for one product. And what I want to show is how I can use that now to apply those same intents to look at other similar products. So I'll just do that here with MLOps 2. And so I'll load the mascara. So these are new products that I didn't label at all yet. And you can see there's the Maybelline, the Telescopica. I have no idea what those are, other than the fact they're mascaras, and nothing is labeled. And so this is something that you can imagine the marketing team from L'Oreal doing, and they have probably 100 different products, beauty products on Amazon. And in intents, I don't have, so I'm going to delete these for now, these pre-trained intents, and I'm going to load from my workspace that I created and where I trained things last night, these intents, and I'm going to choose all of them, because my assumption is that across all beauty products, there's a lot of overlap and repeating types of feedback. So I'm going to import these 16 intents. And so you can imagine this, instead of being called MLOps, being called mascara product number A. And again, I showed this at the beginning, but I think it works really well. If you wanted to say, okay, in this new product review data set, show me all the ones where people are saying they're going to buy again. This is new data that's filtered by intents trained on some other product data set. So for example, negative, let's say the packaging problems. Now the packaging problem is going to be different across products, but still we will find the semantically similar ones. And you see the wand is weak. The wand is a mascara type problem, so it's not in the other ones, but damaged, not impressed. And I can show now based on this, there was noise before, but now I can say came broken, it broke, missing item. And again, continue even on more on that, faulty. And I can assign that, and you see that again, we will find that this is similar to packaging. And so the really interesting part of this, again, is the reusability, where with 1 hour of data, or with 1 hour of labeling, I can create something that's now reusable, serves as a starting point for teams, and they can apply that to a lot of different products. Mm-hmm. And to contrast in terms just of the labeling, so we're obviously working with a lot of customers that are experienced in labeling, and they all share similar, more or less similar metrics in terms of the effort it takes to label. And so the average output of a labeler per day is about 1,000 labels, 1,000 labeling tasks. Whereas, as you saw, I did about 600 across the two workspaces in 1 hour, including the discovery and creation of those intents in the first place. So I had no idea what was in the data, but through the bottom up, I was able to create these high level, and then to create these more specific things that represent actual feedback. And so the labeling discovery and performance is greatly increased. I mean, on some of our customers, we're seeing more than 10x improvements in terms of speed, but it's mostly in the quality of the insights. That if anyone can dive into the data and start creating, very clear types of these types of data sets that they can share with the team and explore, it's very fast and easy to do.
Greg, there's a question from Daniel in the chat, which is really interesting. Have you thought about using all of this to help drive sales? So I guess I can answer this question. So in terms of insights that you can gather from conversational data or from natural language data, of course there are ways to get those insights to help improve sales. We have seen we actually have a case study on this on our blog. eHealth has so a big online insurance broker in the United States used Humanfirst to kind of get some insights and analysis on their call center conversations and sales call centers. So insurance brokers that were selling health insurance to customers. What they've been able to do is really build a very large classifier containing over thousands of intents, hundreds of training phrases each, to start building out call center analytics of their sales agents, as well as augmentation features for their sales agents. So the next best action for certain things that are happening in conversations. So those types of use case can be unlocked with a solution like Humanfirst, and you're able to get an understanding of what's happening on conversations, what's happening in good conversations, and then building out those features that way. But it all starts with really the data exploration and organization part of the problem.
Yeah, that's a good example. I think, sales happens in a lot of different ways. Another example that we saw is, for example, we're working with a fintech that provides kind of the new bank solutions where they send bank cards to their customers, and the entire acquisition there of customers, it's kind of a long process, and of course people drop out of the flow. So by the time people have received a card, that activation of a card is kind of the last sales step in activation. So it's sales, but let's say further down the funnel. Using Humanfirst and analyzing the live chat and the search queries that they were getting on their help center, they started realizing just how many people were reporting problems at that activation step that weren't being bubbled up efficiently to the operations. And you can think of the cost of that in terms of sales. Ultimately, cost you $200 by the time somebody receives a card, and it's just that last step. It's extremely important to remove all friction that happens there. And this is the type of direct insight that your voice of the customer data provides, but that if you're not able to explore efficiently, you're likely to miss. So yeah, definitely, as I at the beginning, and maybe you weren't there, but we were listing the examples, and sales tools can be augmented with NLU, absolutely. Hey, we're nearing the end of this. Actually, I'm surprised I was able to talk for an hour and a half, almost nonstop. So I hope this was interesting to everybody, and that you come out of it with a kind of an understanding of where the data engineering, where the problems in terms of data engineering for natural language are. To recap, I think that the organization and the ability to curate this is a human-led process that allows things to scale. And we see the transformation of data into AI training data as much an art as a science. And that's why we're called Humanfirst, is because it's really to humans that we give this type of tool to work on the data. So I'm really looking forward to obviously scheduling any calls if you have additional questions or ideas. I think Alex might have posted in the chat. You can sign up for Humanfirst, and you can try it, and we'll be happy to talk about what you want to build and how this can be useful to you. So Alex will share a link there to do so. But in any case, our Slack is open and on our website. Please check out humanfirst.ai. And again, if you want to sign up or if you have any questions, join our Slack, contact us. We're extremely excited by all of the applications we're seeing around this type of data. And we're really listening to all this feedback to make it better. So I'm going to stop there and give everybody 2 minutes back unless there's last questions.
Yeah, so as Greg just mentioned, I sent in the chat. It's really simple to do so. You guys can just go to our website, humanfirst.ai, and click on sign up now. A window will pop up with my face kind of saying hello, and a link to join a wait list. So we typically waitlist our interested users first, and then it doesn't take too long before we can onboard you onto the platform. So I invite you to just go to our website, humanfirst.ai, click sign up now, and just fill in the short little form to join our waitlist, and our team will be in touch in the next couple of days.
Yeah, and as I'm showing here, once you sign up, you can easily invite your entire team, give them permissions to read, write, and do a lot of things. So again, there's no limit on the type or amount of data that you input, or on the amounts of seats and people that you onboard. And just in terms of the product, so if this is something that you see value for, it's usage based and it's really simple to get started. And so it's 11:30. Perfect. I'll stop there. Show my face one last time. And thank you all for joining us in this session. I hope it was valuable. And yeah, look forward to hearing from you. Have a great day and a great rest of the week. And thank you to MLOps team and everybody organizing. This was really fun. Bye.
Bye-bye.